just what was it like when jazz was the popular music? When
Jazz was not the popular music.
That's not the way you see
No,
it?
that's a fallacy that people nowadays think, but it wasn't the case.
Tell us how it was then, Jack.
I also said this to somebody recently when we were talking about it. We were commercial musicians. We played what we were paid to play. If somebody told us we were playing jazz, we'd have died laughing. But you might think now, in retrospect, you might have thought it was jazz. But at the time, it wasn't jazz. It was pop music. It was the hit parade. And that certainly was never jazz.
But it was much more complex music than what's
Yeah, it
going
was.
on today.
Yeah, and there were some nice tunes. Not all of the tunes were nice, but there were some nice tunes that people did use as jazz tunes. But for the most part, we weren't playing jazz.
You didn't feel at the time you were playing jazz?
No, we went after hours to play jazz. We went to jam sessions, after the gig.
Where would you go for that, Jack?
Well, there were all kinds of places. There were probably 5 or 6 different places. Some would go like Saturday night. Some would go Sunday afternoon. Some would go Wednesday night. They'd have their time. And if you were a jazz guy like me, you knew where they all were.
Right.
And you went to them. And once in a long time, you got a real jazz gig.
You did, eh?
Maybe a concert or a CBC show or something. That was until House of Hamburg came along, there were no jazz clubs per se.
There were no.
No.
Really? That was the first jazz club?
Yeah, and that was actually a place where we used to go to jam. And then Clemmy, who owned it, was a recording studio. And in those days there weren't many recording studios, but there was one.
Right.
And we used to go there to jam, and then Clemmy, guys would bring their girlfriends and so on. And then Clemmy Hamburg, who ran it, got the idea, why don't I, set up a little coffee shop and charge people to come in and so on. And he ran it very successfully for a few years.
And that would have been between what years, Jack? Just roughly.
Well, I played there for one season every Sunday night, and that would have been 1956.
1956.
Or 57, right around 56 or 57. I think over the winter of the 56.
So, Jack, you've had so many kids, 6 kids. Was that tough, raising 6 kids?
That was a lot harder than Long McQuade.
I'll bet you. I got 2 and it almost killed me, so I can't imagine.
Well, multiply, and it doesn't multiply like 3 times 2. It's like the square.
Yeah, it's squared. Every one is that much more work.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So that's unbelievable.
That's where my hair went.
Yeah, I understand.
I wasn't worrying about the business, I was worrying about the kids.
You were a young man in your 20s with 6 kids.
No, I
or your
wasn't.
30s, early 30s.
Well, the last one, I think I was, when we had Jenny, I think I was 42. So
oh, you were, eh?
they spread out for 15 years.
For 15 years. So how did that feel to be responsible for those many mouths to feed, having been through the Depression era days?
Yeah, well, it was a challenge.
So did that motivate you? That's what I'm asking. Did that motivate you? Because when I saw you with all your kids the other night,
well, I had to make a living.
That would scare the hell out of me. I had 2 and it scared the hell out of me. But to
Yeah,
have 6 mouths.
I was fairly scared.
Where you were, eh?
Yeah.
So part of success is fear?
Yeah, I would think so.
Great, fabulous. I wanted to hear you say that.
Well, as I've told people, when I started, it was a lark, as I mentioned. I was playing every night. In those days, you played every night, like 6 nights a week. You were off Sunday usually. And then quite often I'd pick up a gig for Sunday night. So you were playing like 6 or 7 nights a week. And I started Long McQuade as kind of just a lark. And then it started to grow a little bit. And in the initial stages, there wasn't much involved. And I thought, well, I can't get into too much trouble. If, things don't go well, I just forget about it. And then as it grew and I got into owing suppliers for instruments and bank loans and everything, one day I woke up and I said, hey, I can't just walk away from this anymore. I'm too involved now. I couldn't quit if I wanted to. And I got scared that day, and I've been scared ever since.
Did you stop playing?
No, I couldn't afford to.
So you kept playing?
Oh yeah, for a long time.
And that really was your day gig, in a sense.
Right.
And Long McQuade really was your hobby.
Right, that's right.
Isn't that amazing?
That's right. Yeah.
So Jack, why do I guess you know at this point that your store is a lot more than a music store to a
Yeah.
whole lot of us musicians. I, for one, produce in this city, and all the different departments in your store service me. I couldn't do what I do without being serviced the way I am serviced by your store. It's just unbelievable. Do you think it's just the fact your service is so much better, or what is it that makes it more than a music store? Because that's what everyone